This one really caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. And a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about this news. So let's get right into it. Certainly a controversial decision from Dr. Cornel West. I am so very blessed to have my dear brother Peter Daou as my campaign manager. I welcome him to our campaign and movement. We will work together for truth and justice. And Peter Daou is one of these guys where it's like no matter what, it's like we always have to keep talking about Peter Daou. I remember like back in 2016 and shit, people talking about Peter Daou. There was our good friend Pat the Burner had a parody account called Peter Douche, which actually got like banned by Twitter for like false impersonation, which was totally ridiculous. But the reason why Pat was doing that parody account was because at the time Peter Daou was like the number one Hillary Clinton shit lib. His whole, point on Twitter was just talking shit on
Bernie's an
Bernie bros.
op.
Yeah, Bernie's an op. Aren't Bernie bros sexist? All Bernie Sanders supporters care about is preventing the first female nominee from becoming president. Yeah, he was the worst of the worst, right? And that's why so many people hated him on the left. He was widely mocked. But then he kind of had like a total ideological 180, much like that other guy.
Jesus moment.
Yeah, it's come to Jesus moment, much like that other dude, Ryan Knight, who now is like a huge, like third party fanboy kind of guy. He also started out as a shit lib and then just like overnight changed like all of his opinions seemingly. And Peter Daou, to his credit, has been going hard against the duopoly. He has, he seemingly is, I believe that he's had a genuine change of heart, right? You can say that, you don't trust him because of the fact that he used to work for the establishment. But I think that he genuinely has had a change of heart and that he genuinely now supports progressive candidates and supports a progressive message. Him along with his wife have supported and advised several congressional candidates running as progressives. Obviously, Peter Daou also was Marianne Williamson's first campaign manager before he left that campaign. It's still kind of unclear exactly why he left the Marianne campaign. It was very messy. There was a lot of, different people theorizing about what exactly went down, whether he decided to leave or, he was fired or like it was never really clear. Ultimately, he eventually put out a statement saying that he was leaving the Marianne campaign due to family issues, like, his parents going through some sort of a medical or health issue. So I guess
I'd wager that wasn't necessarily the only thing going on, given the fact that he's just now come out to take a new campaign manager position. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure the excuse about his parents was total bullshit. I mean, that's just purely my speculation, but I don't think that was really why he left the Marianne campaign. But now he's back and he is joining the Cornel West campaign. And like I said, I mean, I understand why people are skeptical about Peter Daou because of what I mentioned, the fact that this guy was like the number one antagonist of Bernie supporters on Twitter for 4 years. And he was just doing DNC propaganda like overtime during that time period. He also, has a long history.
I feel like
with
if Brooklyn Dad Defiant came out as a Bernie bro or became the fucking Cornel West Kim, and not 100% like that, because Peter Daou actually does have like political experience that we'll get into that may be beneficial to Cornel West's campaign. But yeah, I mean, as far as like Twitter personalities go, you could not find a bigger, deeper Hillary Clinton stand than Peter Daou.
Right. And the dude literally worked on the John Kerry campaign as well as the Hillary Clinton campaign. He was a huge blogger back in the 2000s, a huge liberal blogger. So it's very interesting how he's made this transition into this sort of like radical Green Party leftist. And again, I understand why certain people are a little bit sus about him, given the reasons that we've listed off. But I think some of the responses to this have just been unhinged, right? Like, I understand having a criticism of the way Cornel is running his campaign. I understand being like, I wouldn't necessarily have chosen Peter Daou myself. But I do think that a lot of people are overreacting to this. And especially after that Jimmy Dore interview where, Jimmy got really rude and was behaving in a totally disrespectful and out of pocket way to Cornel West. It seems like in the wake of that, now a lot of the Jimmy Dore sycophant channels and a lot of the Jimmy Dore simps, people on the, Jimmy Dore left, if you want to call it that even anymore. It seems like now, because of the fact that Jimmy and Cornel are no longer best of friends, they're kind of using this as an excuse to just totally abandon the Cornel West movement. That's kind of what I read that as. And we're going to take a look at some examples. You guys in chat can tell me if you think I'm full of shit. But it certainly seems like a lot of people are overreacting to this announcement about Peter Daou again, and kind of just using it to basically throw Cornel West under the bus entirely.
Oh, 100%. Look, let's be clear here. These were the people that were keeping their mouths fucking shut, if not celebrating the decision to have Nick Vrana orchestrate the fucking campaign launch for Cornel West, right? Or a party that didn't even fucking exist, anywhere besides paper and Twitter, right? They had no ballot access, they had no infrastructure, they had none of that. And so for all those people to kind of turn a blind eye and now be like, well, I'm just trying to call balls and strikes over here at the Cornel West campaign. It's like, okay, whatever. Here's the position that I took when it came to Peter Daou as Marianne Williamson's campaign manager. I think it's pretty much shakes out the same way. You need somebody that knows how campaigns are run. You need somebody that understands how to, get the ball rolling, get ballot access, get on, TV, get media attention, and start building a grassroots team that's going to be able to, help you gain momentum throughout the general election process. So I think that in that capacity, Peter Daou might actually be really lit. I think he might know the ins and outs of the swamp of Washington and the whole electoral process really well. And I could see Cornel West saying, okay, well, I already have my own moral compass, right? I am not going to be moved to the left or the right or in any direction by my campaign manager. My campaign manager is employed by me. And of course, he has a close relationship to Jill Stein and other members of the Green Party, as well as, countless other lifelong progressive activists. So to be worried that like Peter Daou is going to come in here and start like changing Cornel West's position on things, and he's going to somehow become like a fucking Democratic stooge. And the other thing is people are like, Peter Daou is an op. And I'm like, you guys are so fucking stupid. There is no money in tanking the Green Party. The Green Party is not going to get to fucking any meaningful, people are going to be like, oh, they're really worried about Cornel West. And that's why they had Peter Daou infiltrate him. Like what? Like I just want everybody to use their brain a little bit, because people throw out their brain a second that their like heart comes into it, right? And it's just like, obviously Peter Daou made a lot of enemies during his 2016 era and before then, right? As you mentioned, Pat called him Peter Douche, and it was like pretty earned, right? But I think at the end of the day, you have to trust the moral conviction of a guy like Cornel West to be able to stand strong and to, have his own positions. And you also have to accept the fact that Peter Daou, in addition to apparently being a keyboardist on Miles Davis' track, which is really cool, also has experience, in the swamp and in the, race to become president, which again, he maybe failed both times with John Kerry and Hillary Clinton, but you still gain a lot of knowledge through it.
Yeah. Maybe that's why Cornel picked him, being the jazz enthusiast that he is. He was like, I really was a fan of your feature on that Miles Davis track. I don't understand why people are
I had actually no idea about this with Peter Daou.
Neither.
He's been on Janet Jackson and Mariah Carey and Diana Ross tracks. Yeah.
I knew he was a musician. I didn't know that his work had appeared in such high profile music. Anyway, yeah, like I said, interesting announcement. I do agree with you. As we said at the time when Marianne hired Peter Daou, I think that it is, despite the fact that I understand why people are sus about Peter Daou, I've always said that when lefties are running campaigns, specifically for president, sometimes you do need to surround yourself not with the most pure-hearted activists in the entire world, but sometimes you need to surround yourself with people that can get the job done, people that really know what they're doing, people that have some experience, people that actually know the establishment and can, weaponize their knowledge of it and their understanding of it against the establishment. This is important, right? This is important stuff. And Peter Daou certainly does know the machine from the inside out. Like I said, he literally worked on John Kerry campaign, Hillary Clinton campaign. He's very well acquainted with that whole world. So I do think that's important. And again, I do think it's a mistake that you see sometimes progressives and liberal candidates making, where they, just surround themselves with the most, pure-hearted activist types in the world. Good people, really, really good-hearted activists, but not necessarily experienced campaign operatives, right? They're kind of noobs. And that can seem good from a leftist perspective, because you're like, I wouldn't want to surround myself with anyone who's not concerned with anything other than the most pure motive possible. But sometimes that does get in the way of like running a winning campaign, or even a remotely successful campaign. Because if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, it doesn't matter how good your intentions are. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if you literally are out of your depth and don't know what you're doing because of a lack of experience, then again, all those intentions cease to matter. It becomes irrelevant. So again, I actually, maybe some people would disagree with me on the left, but I would rather a lefty campaign hire an experienced person that's not necessarily the most pure activist ever versus a super pure left-wing activist who has no experience winning.
Can we talk about the
doing.
graphic design is my passion energy that's coming off of this fucking press release, though? Lynn Stacks correctly pointed out that it looks like the SpongeBob font. Oof. True.
That is true. Oh my god.
But anyway.
Oh my god. We got some interesting responses to this. Also, another thing which really, really triggered a lot of the Jimmy Dore left, a lot of the folks like the crew over at RBN. Dr. West posted this.
Oh yeah, where they can hang out with their favorite Republican Nico House and talk about how just nobody on the left understands how politics work.
Yeah, exactly. They have on a literal Ron DeSantis voter, Nico House, to lecture everyone else about how we're not really leftists or something. Anyway, Tim Black. I salute my dear brother Tim Black, who once referred to Zach and I as those Columbine-looking mofos. That was.
Hey,
Tim
we can
Black,
take
right?
a good burn. That was a good.
Oh yeah, that was a high quality burn for sure.
I've got the beanie on today and everything. That's my aesthetic, Columbine-looking motherfucker.
Anyway, we haven't always agreed with Tim Black in the past, but I definitely agreed with this video he did. Jimmy Dore betrays Cornel West, pandering to Trump fans. That's a video Tim Black did responding to that interview that we also responded to. And Dr. West's wife actually tweeted this out saying, "Thank you, brother Tim, for your courage and truth telling." And then Dr. West also quote tweeted that and said, "I salute you, my dear brother Tim, for your rare courage," basically signing off on everything that Tim Black said about Jimmy Dore here in this clip. And that's a pretty big development, because if you guys remember, Jimmy and Cornel have been pretty tight up until pretty recently. Cornel West has even defended Jimmy Dore on shows like Bad Faith. I remember he literally defended Jimmy like 6 months ago or something. And I thought that was stupid at the time, because I, have thought it's pretty obvious the true nature of Jimmy Dore being the right-wing grifter that he is. But it's taken Cornel a little bit longer to get there, and now it seems like he is officially there, because I don't think he would have quote tweeted Tim Black's anti Jimmy Dore video if he didn't agree with the sentiment expressed in it. So this also pissed off a lot of the Dore fans, a lot of the RBN crew, and those kind of people.
Yeah, shout out to Cornel West's wife, Anita. Is that pronounced Anahita or Anita? I'm not sure, but either way, shout out to you for being real and having your husband's back here. She's been taking to Twitter a lot, actually, I'd seen after that Jimmy Dore exchange. I do not think she was fucking happy with how he spoke to her husband during that exchange. I wasn't happy with how he spoke to her husband in that exchange at all. But yeah, I always love it when you see spouses come out here and be like, fuck you. Like, no, this is like, I like that shit.
Totally. So yeah, this pissed off a lot of folks for sure. Into this news that Cornel West picked Peter Daou to be his campaign manager. I thought this was pretty unhinged, because again, in the past, when it's come to third parties like the People's Party and stuff, a lot of Jimmy Dore acolytes, they've taken the position that, well, to criticize them at all is illegitimate or something, or makes you an establishment hack, because they're they're one of the only people doing it. So now again, they're taking a very different stance as it relates to Cornel West and the People's Party. Here's Max Blumenthal quote tweeting Cornel West.
He runs out to go blow Jimmy at first chance he gets. Everybody's real surprised by that. Maybe then he'll still take you on tour. Yeah, you can sniff coke and tell bad jokes.
Exactly. And it's like, again, your only reaction to this piece of news is Jimmy Dore was right. It's like, this isn't about fucking Jimmy Dore, Max. Like, what Cornel West is doing has nothing to do with fucking Jimmy Dore. And I'm sure a lot of people will point out, well, you guys are also framing this discussion through the lens of what Jimmy Dore thinks and what his audience thinks. And fair enough, but we're the fucking vanguard. This is a supposedly serious journalist, someone that likes to tout his journalistic credentials and, you know, his seriousness. And he can't frame this through any other fucking lens than Jimmy Dore was right. My boss, Jimmy, was right. Yeah, real sophisticated analysis there, Max. Let's take a look at some other examples of some of these crazy people. This one's my favorite, actually. So these are some of the clowns over at the Indie News Network.
Oh, this was your boy for a while, Gavin. I remember you were tight with this.
For a second we were. Then yeah, shit hit the fan. But look at this, guys. This is hilarious. The Indie News Network is basically just a bunch of clowns that suck off Jimmy Dore for a living, or maybe just for a hobby, because I don't really think they make much money. Their channels get like very few views, but their whole
it's an
existence,
identity.
yeah, it's a lifestyle.
It's like those kids that love BTS. Oh, you know, those little girls, they would get every McDonald's fucking toy that comes out. You know, this is like the online political left version of that. Like, you know.
Yeah. So here's a Colin, who's one of these, you know, Jimmy Dore dick suckers. He says, again, the thing I abhor about independent media is the lack of consistency among certain personalities. And of course, you might think he's talking about Jimmy. That would be the obvious culprit of a online leftist commentator who has demonstrated a lack of consistency. So you'd think he might be talking about Jimmy. Nope, not talking about Jimmy. He's talking about Tim Black for accusing Jimmy Dore of doing race baiting identity politics, but he includes Trump behind Jimmy. And I guess that's supposed to be some sort of a gotcha, because there's like a picture of Trump in the background of the thumbnail behind Jimmy. And Colin is saying that makes Tim Black a hypocrite because he's accusing Jimmy of doing race baiting identity politics, which is 100% accurate. But there's a picture of Trump in the thumbnail behind Jimmy. What a freaking gotcha. Yeah. Pretty freaking stupid, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's hilarious. And isn't this the same guy that tried to, or maybe it was the Indie News tweet that you put up before this, where he was like, they lightened Jimmy's skin to make it look like, you know, he was even, wait, will you pull that tweet back up?
Yeah.
Yeah, they superimposed that pic behind Jimmy, then used photo editing to make him look even whiter. Nice touch while yelling about everyone using identity politics to divide people, Johnson. Just so fucking crazy. That, like, Jimmy is a white guy. There's no hiding that. There's no making him more white. There's no making him less white. This man is fucking Chicago, like, Polish guy. Like, yeah, he's fucking as white as they come, right? Snow White. I don't know. Just fucking ridiculous. And also just, again, more and more revealing, like, do you know what it is? Like, a big problem with white people, and I'm sorry that this is going to hurt a bunch of you fuckers in the chat's feeling. There's a big problem with white people on the left. They can't get on board with, like, LGBTQ issues or black issues because it's not actually just about them, right? At that point, you actually have to exercise solidarity, which is something that Jimmy and his ilk are absolutely unwilling to do. They're not willing to say, hey, this isn't about me. This is about a power structure that impacts, like, my brothers and sisters across this country, and we have to systematically undo that, right? Because we have more people. You see, this is what's fucking crazy. Is Jimmy will parrot the fucking statistics. Oh, we have, you know, X amount, like, what is it? Like fucking 5% of the world's population, 25% of its prisoners. Do you not understand that that's because of white supremacy, right? Do you not understand that that is because of the racist history and fucking founding of this country, and the fact that you can't just turn that off, right? You can't just not talk about that, right? And the reason that he doesn't want to talk about it is because he has an audience of white people that don't want to hear about any issues that aren't about them. And it's crazy too, because instead of talking about, you know, the meaningful issues like Medicare for all or whatever, he's got all these fucking all these fucking deranged crazies convinced that any moment we're on the verge of like fucking World War III, and that everybody is an op if that's not all that they're talking about. And it's just completely ridiculous. Like, he has his own esoteric, you know, like raw meat things that he'll throw to his audience that he's cultivated over time, right? But I don't know. The race baiting thing has become is like a newer addition, I would say, to the show, and just completely transparent.
Right. Here's another one from Compton J. I'm officially out of the Cornel West skip.
I told you guys the other day. I was like, it's only a matter of time. CJ, he stepped out of line, guys. I was like, damn, CJ's actually exercising some intellectual independence over here, and he's breaking with the RBN you know, groupthink, and he's talking about how Jimmy actually really was talking down to Cornel West. He was the one that cut a lot of those clips and got them circulating around the internet so everybody could see them, right? But I guarantee you he got a talking to from old Nick Cruz back over there, boss man Nick, said, hey, buddy, you want to keep your spot on the RBM? You want to still have your spot on Revolutionary Blackout Network? Yep. You're going to have to fucking change your opinion on that guy. Absolutely. I mean, it just completely, oh, bro, we got to stay close to Jimmy, bro. Oh, okay, bro. It's just completely ridiculous over here. This dude has no conviction at all, but he does love to fucking pretend.
Yeah. Oh, it's so hilarious how, again, these crew of people are the most enthusiastically pro third party ever. And then as soon as Jimmy Dore turns on their guy, Cornel West, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, mysteriously, they also turn on Cornel West. I wonder if it had anything to do with their dear leader, Jimmy Dore. I really wonder. I imagine it's completely, a separate and unrelated issue. I'm guessing there's no correlation between those things, right? Of course there is. This is so funny. And again, like I think it's fine to say they've chosen a different manager. I don't think you have to be like, I love Peter Daou and I would have made the same choice. But if you support a candidate because you align with that candidate's values and their policies more than any of the other people in the election or in the race, then like you wouldn't let this get in the way of supporting that candidate. Like I thought that Faz Shakir was a kind of weak pick for Bernie in 2020. I was like, who is this guy? Like he doesn't really have a lot of experience. Seems kind of like a noob. I don't know if he's going to be able to get the job done. I thought it was a kind of odd decision for Bernie to hire Faz Shakir. Did that stop me in any way from being the loudest and proudest Bernie bro that I possibly could be? Of course not. Of course not. Because I'm not stupid. And even if I would have picked someone else, that doesn't mean I was just going to stop supporting Bernie and stop supporting the policies that he was advocating for. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. So again, I don't care if you haven't beef with Peter Daou or if you think he's cringy or whatever. It's like, who cares, right? Who cares? I can't imagine, like, he would have to choose someone a lot worse than Peter Daou for me to be like, it's over, it's done.